One of the biggest mysteries in all of the Bible is the identity of the Nephilim. They roamed the earth a long time ago, allegedly, and they were destroyed by the flood.
A long time ago, colossal beings roamed freely on Earth with their imposing presence, defying the laws of nature. It sounds impossible, right? Well, the Bible confirms this shocking truth, calling them the Nephilims, an enigmatic race of giant beings. It was recorded in the scriptures that these giants lived alongside men, causing havoc and instilling fear in the hearts of men before their mysterious disappearance. But how did they get lost in time? How did they come to be? Were they fallen angels, as legends suggest? So sit back, relax, and join us as we unravel the mysterious origins of the Nephilim.
For over 2,000 years, Christians, Jews, and even unbelievers have been debating what are the Nephilim, beginning in Genesis chapter 6.
Who were the Nephilims? Often translated as giants in English, the Nephilim represent one of the most puzzling mysteries in all of the biblical narratives. The first mention of Nephilim is in the book of Genesis, chapter 6, verse 4, where it states that sons of God took daughters of men as their wives and had children with them. These offspring were known as the mighty men of old, the men of renown, or simply Nephilim. Some Bible scholars have interpreted the sons of God to mean fallen angels who abandoned their heavenly domain and took human form, while others argue that they were either powerful human rulers or the godly descendants of Seth, who intermarried with the wicked descendants of Cain. The question is, did the existence of the Nephilim really shape the course of human history as many people believed? In order to fully understand the story of the Nephilim, we need to delve into the origins of angels, for they play a crucial role in the genesis of the Nephilim. The origins of the Nephilim. It goes without saying that angels and humans have fundamentally different origins. They were created at different times and for different reasons. According to various scriptures, a subset of Satan's fallen angels deviated from their intended roles. They chose instead to materialize and interact with humans in ways that angels were not supposed to do. This unusual and forbidden interaction is captured in Genesis chapter 6, verses 1 through 4. The passage tells us that when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, daughters were born to them. The sons of God saw that the daughters of men were beautiful, and they took as wives whomever they chose. So the Lord said, "My spirit will not contend with man forever, for he is mortal. His days shall be 120 years. The Nephilim were on earth in those days and afterward as well. The sons of God had relations with the daughters of men, and they bore them children who became the mighty men of old, men of renown." Here, the term son of God is understood by many to refer to the fallen angels who were attracted to human women and chose to take them as wives. Their offspring were beings of significant size and power, known as the Nephilim, or the mighty men of old. These individuals were notably distinct in height and power from regular humans, but they were more than just physically imposing. Their lineage, which was a direct result of an unholy union between celestial and terrestrial beings, added a diabolical element to their nature. The presence of these unholy unions in their progeny was seen as such a severe corruption of God's creation that it resulted in the Great Flood, a divine punishment designed to cleanse the earth of all wickedness and start anew. The Book of Enoch also tells the story of the Nephilim, describing them as the children born through the crossbreeding between the Watchers' fallen angels and humans. According to the Book of Watchers, the Watchers are a group of angels who, led by Azazel and Shemi-Hazar, rebelled against God by descending to earth and teaching humans forbidden knowledge. According to Enoch, the offspring of the Watchers and human women are the Nephilim, a race of giants who cause corruption and destruction on earth. This further provoked the wrath of God, and according to the Bible, the consequence of this mingling between the fallen and the mortals led to the creation of half-angelic and half-human offspring in Genesis 6:4. The Nephilim in the Book of Enoch are portrayed as giants and savages who threatened and plundered mankind, or, to put it another way, supernatural, man-eating giants. Angered by what the fallen angels had done, those described in the Book of Enoch as mighty gods sent the Watchers to an underground prison, deep within the bowels of the earth, and Enoch became the mediator between the gods and the imprisoned Watchers. But despite Enoch's intervention, God decided that because of what the planet has become, it and all its inhabitants must be punished, and the punishment was the great flood. It is said that while the flood destroyed the Nephilim, it left the Watchers confined to their prison. While Enoch is taken to heaven in a chariot of fire, the biblical accounts mention many tales of post-flood giant races and powerful nations in the land of Canaan. The Rephaim, also known as Anakites or Avam, were a giant biblical people who lived during the time of Abraham. They inhabited both Palestine and Moab. These races instilled fear and wonder in the Israelites, but they also served as testaments to God's might and the Israelites' faith in the book of Deuteronomy. It is said that the Amites used to live there, a people as strong and numerous as the Anakites. Like the Anakites, they too were considered, but the Moabites called them Amites in Deuteronomy 2, verse 10 to 11. Ogg, the king of Bashan, famous Rephaim, was one of the last giants of his kind. As sons perished due to their opposition to God's people. What is noteworthy is the way his giant's bed is described in the Bible. Ogg, king of Bashan, was the last of the Raphites. His bez was decorated with iron and was more than 9 cubits long and 4 cubits wide, as written in Deuteronomy 3, verse 11. In Deuteronomy 31, verse 4, God is mentioned bringing about the defeat of Hion and Dog and their lands, displaying his power to conquer formidable foes despite their immense size and strength. God gave the Israelite army victory over them. The book says that the Israelites prepared to enter the promised land. Moses dispatched 12 spies to gather information about the land and its inhabitants, but the spies encountered descendants of the Anakites, the formidable race of giants who occupy the lands of southern Israel. Joshua and Caleb, 2 of the Israelite spies, described these beings as so large that they felt like grasshoppers by comparison. So they brought to the Israelites an unfavorable report of the land that they had spied out, saying, "The land that we have gone through as spies is a land that devours its inhabitants. All the people that we saw in it are of great size. There we saw the Nephilim. The Anakites came from the Nephilim. And to ourselves, we seemed like grasshoppers, and so we seemed to them." So despite the promises of God and the fruitful land they witnessed, when seeing the giants, 10 of the 12 spies returned in fear, doubting God's promise due to the intimidating stature of the inhabitants. Only Caleb and Joshua retained their faith and urged the Israelites to conquer the land, acknowledging the obstacles but firm in their belief that with God, victory was certain. As Joshua and his army overcame the Anakites and took possession of their land, the descendants of Anak were among the last giants to be defeated by the Israelites. The giants that the Israelites defeated seemed to be minor ones, but they were mighty when compared to an average man. The greatest giant in history. Another story of a giant who was perhaps the most famous ancient giant from the Bible is the legendary Goliath, first mentioned in Kings 17, verse 4. It is said that a champion named Goliath, who was from Gath, came out of the Philistine camp. His height was 6 cubits in a span. He had a bronze helmet on his head, and he wore a coat of scale armor of bronze, weighing 5,000 shekels. On his legs, he wore bronze greaves, and a bronze javelin was slung on his back. Giants such as Goliath and his brothers re-emerge in later accounts, challenging the Israelites. Goliath, from the Philistine camp, was a renowned giant who stood at least 9 feet, 9 inches tall. His impressive size, combined with his formidable armor and weaponry, made him a terrifying opponent. However, David's unwavering faith in God empowered him to defeat Goliath in a seemingly easy way and bring glory to God's name. The story of David and Goliath is one of the most captivating tales in biblical literature, told and retold countless times throughout the ages and often used as a metaphor to describe the triumph of the underdog over a formidable opponent. This passage from the book of 1 Samuel, chapter 17, meticulously narrates this timeless episode. Goliath, a towering Philistine warrior, emerged from the ranks and issued a brazen challenge to the Israelites. The strategy he proposed was a common one in Eastern civilizations known as representative combat. This tactic involved a one-on-one battle where the representative of one army would fight the representative of the other, the victor, determining the outcome for the entire army. It was an attempt to minimize bloodshed, where the victor claimed victory not just for themselves, but for the entire army, while the whole army of the losing side faced defeat. Goliath, believing himself the superior warrior, offered to represent the Philistine army. Goliath's challenge was not a one-off event. He reiterated his challenge for 40 days straight, striding forward each morning and evening, showcasing his intimidating size and strength. This act was not just a test of his physical abilities, but also a psychological strategy aimed at instilling fear and demoralizing the Israelites. However, far away in the mountains of Judea, a young boy named David, oblivious to the ongoing conflict, was busy tending to his father's sheep. David was too young to enlist in the army and was possibly unaware of the Philistine menace. His primary concern was the well-being of his elder brothers, who were serving in Saul's army. Jesse, his father, was growing older and couldn't make the long journey to check on his sons, so he sent David to deliver food to his brothers and get news of their well-being. As David approached the Israelite camp, he found himself amid preparations for battle. He decided to greet his brothers on the front lines. However, as he was talking with them, he heard Goliath issuing his usual challenge. It was a shock to David, as he had never heard of such a challenge before. David, enraged by the Philistines' audacity, questioned his brothers about the rewards for killing Goliath. King Saul, hearing about David's resolve, summoned him. David assured Saul, stating that just as he had protected his father's sheep from lions and bears, he would defeat Goliath. He believed that the Lord, who had saved him from the paws of the lion and the bear, would deliver him from Goliath as well. Saul, moved by David's courage and faith, blessed him, saying, "Go, and the Lord be with you." For the impending battle, Saul dressed David in his armor, but the inexperienced David couldn't maneuver in it and chose to wear his shepherd's attire instead. His only weapons were his sling, his staff, and 5 smooth stones he picked from a stream. Thus David, in his most basic shepherd clothing, was ready to face the colossal Goliath. Their confrontation was intense. Goliath, dressed in heavy armor, despised David, seeing him as nothing more than a young boy with a stick. He cursed David by his gods, vowing to feed his flesh to the birds and wild animals. But David remained unfazed. His faith in the Lord was unwavering, and he declared that while he came at him with weapons, he came in the name of the Lord. David struck Goliath on the forehead with a stone from his sling, causing the giant to fall face down, unconscious. David then seized Goliath's own sword and beheaded him. Witnessing the defeat of their champion, the Philistines fled in fear. This monumental victory against the Philistines was a turning point for the Israelites. It solidified their faith in God and transformed David into a national hero. What's more, it also served as a precursor to David's subsequent reign as king of Israel, where he brought peace and prosperity to the nation. But what were the origins of Goliath, who was traditionally described as a giant? Was he a Nephilim or a descendant of the ancient Rapites or Anakites known for their great size? Some scientists suggest that Goliath was not a real giant, but had a hereditary gigantism condition passed down through his family tree. But whether Goliath was a literal giant due to genetic predisposition or a metaphorical giant symbolizing formidable challenges, his defeat by David represented the triumph of faith over seemingly unbeatable foes. Later in the Bible, in the books of Samuel and Chronicles, David and his men confronted other giant relatives of Goliath, further solidifying David's reputation as a giant slayer. The battles with these giants showcase not only David's physical and spiritual strength, but also his ability to inspire his followers. These tales reinforce the importance of courage, trusting God, and unity in the face of adversity. While our understanding of the Nephilim, the fallen angels, and the giants of the Old Testament is still limited and subject to interpretation, now giants have been discovered on a modern island. Sightings of modern giants in the Solomon Islands. The Solomon Islands are a sovereign state located in Oceania to the east of Papua New Guinea. The state includes 6 major islands and over 900 smaller islands. Honiara, the capital, is located on the island of Guadalcanal, which became a famous battleground between U.S. and Japanese forces in what came to be known as the Solomon Island Campaign of 1942-1945. These remote islands, nestled in the midst of vast oceans, have long held a mysterious allure. Many tales of a tribe of giants, said to be the offspring of the initial Nephilim, still roaming on these islands, continue to spark curiosity and fascination among those who seek to unravel the enigma that surrounds these lands. These islands were left undiscovered by the rest of the world, inhabited only by indigenous people who had lived on the islands for thousands of years. Álvaro de Medina, a Spanish explorer in 1568, became the first European to discover the hidden islands, navigating the oceans from Peru. After discovering the islands, he named them the Islands of Solomon, with the belief that he had found gold, not just any gold, but the place where the biblical King Solomon obtained the gold for his temple in Jerusalem. In 1595, rumors of such an important find reached explorers and other lands, and in 1606, more Spanish expeditions set out to uncover the truth. Although the big discoveries of gold reported by Medina were never verified back then, in more recent times, companies have managed to mine a large amount of gold from the islands. It is believed that there's still a substantial amount of gold buried throughout the land. There's been a series of controversies concerning the mining process for gold on the islands, with allegations of exploitation and environmental damage. While some locals accuse mining companies of exploiting their land and resources for their own gain, others point out the irreparable damage caused by mining activities. However, the allure of the islands does not stop at the golds. The native people who have inhabited the Solomon Islands for thousands of years have passed down traditions and oral stories of giants living in the land, much like many other cultures from around the world, and these people living on the island still believe that these giants exist today. The stories of the giants have many variations and interpretations. Some enthusiasts believe them to be benevolent creatures, and others consider them dangerous and malicious. Some legends even describe giant creatures that hunt people, lurking in the shadows and waiting to attack them. Marius Boy-Rayon is a researcher and research director of the Solomon Anthropological Expedition Trust Board, Incorporated. He is one of the people involved in the investigation process regarding the true giants on the islands. Boy-Rayon is based in Australia, but has lived and worked in the Solomon Islands as a helicopter pilot and engineer. He even married a Solomonian native woman and became a citizen. Then, during his stay, he became familiar with the island's culture and tradition, including the stories about the giants. In 2010, Boy-Rayon published the book Solomon Island Mysteries, which contained stories from the local people, including his wife. In his research, he discovered that giants were living on the islands and were somewhere over 10 feet tall. He referred to these giants as Guadalcanal giants. They have long black, brown, or red hair, double eyebrows, red eyeballs, flat noses, and wide mouths. Marius writes that some of the giants were killing and stealing humans from their villages. He speaks of a huge, rogue killer giant that attacked the indigenous people. Many warriors died trying to slay the giant before villages had to be moved to other parts of the islands to protect their people. The Solomon Island giants are said to have social structures, and there are possibly thousands of them that inhabit Guadalcanal to this day. They use complex cave systems to pass from one side of the island to the other without ever having to see daylight. Among the islanders, one of the most eerie stories related to the giants is the story of Mango. Many years ago, a girl named Mango was taken by the giants. After 25 years of being believed dead and never to be seen again, Mango reappeared in an unrecognizable and shocking state. She was found to be pregnant and believed to have been taken as a wife by one of the giants for over 2 decades. She gave birth to a half-breed boy who was killed by one of her brothers at the age of 5. Mango herself remained in a severely unstable mental state until her death. According to the story, some of the men on the island are aware of the location where her son is buried, but the stories about these giants were not limited to locales. There are also reports that Japanese forces encountered these giants during the Solomon Islands campaign between 1942 and 1945. Japanese and U.S. forces engaged in heavy fighting on the islands, and Japanese soldiers reported seeing creatures around 10 to 15 feet tall that would sometimes come charging at units of soldiers. The bullets had little effect on them, and soldiers had a hard time sleeping as they could hear their fellow comrades wailing through the night as the giants launched more attacks. The cannibalistic nature of the giants struck fear in the hearts of the Japanese infantry. Although there are skeptics who dismiss these accounts as myth and folklore, the sheer number of testimonies and eyewitness accounts from various sources gives reason to believe that there may be some truth to the legends of the giants of the Solomon Islands. However, concrete information about these mysterious creatures remains scarce, and the legends surrounding them are shrouded in mystery and uncertainty. The idea of giants has been present in many cultures throughout history, from the biblical account of the Nephilim to depictions in ancient architecture and cave writings. The legends about these creatures may be a remnant of the time when fallen angels coexisted with humans, which led to the birth of the Nephilim and the subsequent appearance of giants in various parts of the world. The sheer number of legends and stories about such beings across cultures suggests that there may be some truth to the idea of fallen angels and their influence on the world. Apart from the stories from Solomon Islands, there are other pieces of evidence confirming the existence of giants, shocking proofs of giants amongst men. The legend of Solomon Islands giants is only one piece of this larger puzzle. The relationship between giants and pyramids in different cultures is also an interesting topic. Many ancient societies around the world, such as those in Egypt, Iran, Iraq, China, Mexico, and Cambodia, built pyramids, suggesting that something was happening on Earth in those days. Even more intriguing, these cultures all have stories and depictions of giants. It is possible that these societies had contact with each other and that the giants played an important role in the construction of these pyramids. Let's take, for instance, the pyramids in Mexico. Missionaries in New Spain and New Hispanic historians chronicle stories saying that in ancient times there were giants in the land now known as Mexico. They called them Kinemetzin, a term used in Mesoamerican mythology for people of great height. The friars were looking for explanations for the large buildings dedicated to the indigenous gods. According to the Journal of Mexican Archaeology, the evangelists attributed the construction of the largest pyramids, such as that of Cholula, to the giants. The Bible gave the missionaries the idea that the creators of these great buildings could be beings like those described in biblical passages, like Goliath, against which David fights, or other stories where the triumph of a person is enhanced by overcoming individuals superior in size and strength. A story by Friar Andrés de Olmos, famous for his work as a philologist of the indigenous groups, tells that in the palace of the first viceroy of New Spain, Antonio de Mendoza, bones of a human foot were found where each toe measured almost the palm of a hand. Like in the Bible story of Noah and the flood, the giants perished in the catastrophe of Atanasia, a great flood in the mountainous area of Tlaxcala. Another ancient megalithic structure that is believed to have been built by the giants are the unbelievable structures made from enormous basalt stones in Nan Madol, on the island of Pompeii. The walls are standing as high as 58 feet tall and measuring as much as 17 feet thick. Columns and buildings are all made from stone, which weighs anywhere from 5 to 50 tons and is stacked in the manner in which one might construct a log cabin. Astonishingly, it has been estimated that over 750,000 tons of stone were used in the site's construction. The labor and effort needed to build these structures are so massive that it couldn't be done by ordinary humans. It was widely believed that this could have only been built by giants. This was supported by the discovery of Victor Berg, the appointed governor during German rule on the island. When he ventured into Nan Madol in 1907, he stumbled upon a sealed tomb that was believed to contain the remains of Pompeii's ancient rulers. To his surprise, he found skeletal remains that were significantly larger than any he had seen before, indicating the presence of a race of giants standing at 10 feet tall. This discovery led Berg to wonder about the identity of these giant rulers. However, a violent storm that hit the island on the night of his discovery, accompanied by the sound of conch shells and glowing orbs in the sky, left Berg dead the next day, leading the locals to believe that Nan Mandole was guarded by supernatural forces. After World War I, Japan took control of Pompeii, and they also began to investigate Nan Mandole. According to remaining sources, Japanese scientists discovered that the ruins of Nan Madol, built on top of coral reefs, were just a small part of the puzzle, and that Nan Madol extended deeper into the ocean, forming an entire sunken city. It was here that the Japanese purportedly discovered massive platinum coffins on the ocean floor, which contained the remains of giant humans standing 10 feet tall when broken open. Due to the loss of many Japanese records from the area during World War II, the details of Japan's rule over Pompeii are fragmented. The concept of the return of the Nephilim and their offspring during the last days is an intriguing theme that appears in several Bible prophecies. One of these prophecies is found in Revelation chapter 9, which describes an army of 200 million strange creatures that will bring a plague to the earth, resulting in the death of a third of humanity. The nature and qualities of these beings are unknown, but some theories suggest that they may be some type of descendant of the Nephilim, resurrected to fight in the War of the Last Days. Another Bible prophecy that supports this theory is found in Luke chapter 21, verse 26, which speaks of people fainting with fear and anxiety due to what will happen on earth in the last days. The powers of heaven will be shaken, and men will faint in fear at the sight of what will come upon the earth. Something so terrifying could be the Nephilim and their offspring being resurrected and brought back to life by some type of wicked supernatural event that would occur to usher in the last days of the earth. While these prophecies are open to various interpretations, they are worth considering. In the context of the legends and stories associated with giants throughout the world, including those in the Solomon Islands, it is possible that giants still exist today, concealed in the caves of the earth. Only time will tell whether the return of the Nephilim and their offspring is inevitable or simply the stuff of legend and myth. What are your thoughts concerning these colossal beings? Let us know in the comments. Thank you for watching. Remember to like and subscribe to see more videos.